Alright, so I'm going to try to make this a quick video. A lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on the mystery fruit talked about in chapter 1037, and I've been rereading the chapter and rethinking the possibilities, so by now you've probably seen this analysis, but yes, I agreed that the scenes between the Gorosei and the world government ships are separate. There might have been a narrative clue as to why Oda chose to show us the scene in this progression, but I think this conversation was separate, meaning that it's more likely that there's a missing panel or two between this statement of the Gorosei and the previous line. So if someone could solve or deduce what they could have talked about between this and that panel, then they might fully solve the missing variable that would give us the answer for the devil fruit that they're talking about. So my current thoughts about these panels are that the Gorosei are in the loop of Wano, but also kind of out of the loop. They assume they have Nico Robin when they don't, but also didn't expect the battle to become this intense. They say if we strike, it should be now. Does that mean they're gonna buster call or send the SSG or do something themselves maybe to eliminate the inconveniences? It feels like they want to either assassinate someone specific or a few people specifically, or use a broad spectrum nuke type of attack to get rid of those people, then just blame those people's death on Big Mom and Kaido. But so the interesting part here is if they wanted someone dead, why would they need to cover it up? This person would have to have a public reputation and their death would shock or startle the world, in the sense that there would be retaliation if this person died. Someone they couldn't kill beforehand, but because of the war, they found a convenient scapegoat. This actually gave me a few interesting thoughts, because then I started thinking, what if the Gorosei were trying to kill someone who is actually on their side and they sent them over to Wano on those world government ships, and then are planning on destroying Wano and also killing that person they sent over? The person that came to mind was actually Garp. Garp is kind of a loose cannon on the world government side, and he has the title of the Hero of the Navy. Garp is not a person who is easily killed or defeated by anyone in the verse on any side. At the same time, he has a public reputation of being someone that the world believes in and supports because of his epithet and reputation. Time and time again, he is kind of undermining the best intentions of the world government. Plus, his family is literally the biggest nuisances for the world government. Also, they're a part of the D clan, which are just nuisances to the world government and Celestials in general. So that would be crazy if Garp is on one of those ships going to Wano. I did predict earlier in my chapter 1025 spread analysis that it low-key feels like Garp might die soon. But because I'm not dead set on Garp going to Wano, I was trying to think of people currently on Wano that would fit this description. There honestly wasn't anyone that really made sense to me at first. Well, there was one, but so the first person that comes to mind that has public reputation would be Luffy. If he died, the Gorosei should know by now he has a positive reputation amongst people and amongst royalty, but he is a pirate, and even if the world government killed him, I don't think people would think that's out of the ordinary. And that line of thinking made me eliminate any pirate really who's there. Why would the government care about any pirate dying from a public standpoint? They wouldn't. So the other people in the war would be the Wano Samurai and CP0. CP0 doesn't make sense to eliminate, but they could be talking about who's who, but he's already basically done for. And they shouldn't care about the Wano Samurai like that. Wano isn't a part of the world government, so even if they assassinated the king or leader, there would be no one who really cared. There is one person, though, that would ruin some things for the world government. It'd be Jinbei. Jinbei is the main person I think that the world government here is probably caring to eliminate. Jinbei knows a lot of the world. He was a former warlord and imprisoned. After breaking out of Impel Down, he went directly against the world government by allying with Luffy. And the Gorosei say it's a shame that he's fully against them because his joining symbolized peace and understanding between the human species and the fishmen. The world government wanted to eliminate all the warlords also, but the problem with killing Jinbei is that he is the Superman hero of Fishman Island. Killing Jinbei would be a repeat of killing Fisher Tiger. The world government does not want to take the responsibility for killing Jinbei, so instead it would be super convenient if they could kill Jinbei and blame it on the war with Big Mom and Kaido. Something along the lines of, after defecting from the Big Mom pirates, Jinbei was killed by the Yonko, when in reality it was the world government who instigated his death. Now the question is, why would Jinbei be the nuisance? Is he really that big of a problem for them? Well, yeah, if he joins the Straw Hats, that's already massive, but he is also a huge pillar of strength for the Fishman community, so if they could take him out, that could further cripple the Fishman Islands' attempt for equality and rights in general. But okay, so if that's where the Gorosei's conversation leaves off and they're picking up with the line, "No, that's impossible. That fruit is only a legend now. Even to us, it has not awakened for centuries upon centuries." And if our understanding is that there's a missing part of their conversation that led up to this sentence, what could possibly lead them to this low-key freakout about a devil fruit? It would make sense if they were talking about things that would counter their plans or cover up to eliminate the nuisance. They already underestimated Luffy's side in the part where they questioned who could have predicted the battle would become this intense. Maybe the fruit is some sort of revival fruit or protection fruit. Maybe they're talking about Law's fruit here, like meaning because he was there, he could counter important deaths like that. So there's a bunch of lines of thought you could have that could piece these panels together, but this is where I think the Zunisha panel fits in. It might not be that the Gorosei were specifically referring to Zunisha or even aware of its presence on Wano, as they seem partially blinded or out of the loop at Wano. It would make sense to me if someone brought up how the battle became so intense and maybe they received some intel from CP0 from their realization from chapter 1017 that some of the Beast Pirates became traitors from some unknown reason. Then somehow from this, they start thinking about the fruits that would make this possible, and then someone says the name of the fruit's name being the Bishi Bishi no Mi. And you're probably like, what? He said what fruit now? I'll tell you what it is and my thinking in a second, but Oda put this panel here to probably give us a hint that the fruit does relate to Zunisha somehow. So now the question is, some people think that the devil fruit is Uranus, and Zunisha is Pluton, or that Zunisha is the Pluton battleship that ate a devil fruit and became a mythical awakened Zoan. While there is support for this line of thinking, I even talked about this in my devil fruit boats float video, that Zunisha might be a ship that gained a will and somehow became an elephant. So the main thing, I guess, to figure this out is, why is Zunisha even here? We'll probably find out in the coming chapters. The only thing we do know are that Momo can command Zunisha, so he possibly unintentionally called Zunisha, or that all of this was part of Zunisha's original command. And the command there is important because we do know of a fruit on Wano that is commanding animals, Tama's Kibi Dango fruit. Also important to note is that her commands persist while she is unconscious, meaning commands given to her subordinates may persist even after death. This is not confirmed, but it may be possible. So there's two things if Tama's fruit was the source of Zunisha's original command. Well, one, that sort of counters the Pluton mythical Zoan theory, since currently Tama's powers don't work on Zoans apparently, but also then why is Momo able to command Zunisha? First, it doesn't counter the first theory. I think anything is still possible there. Not that I believe in it, like Zunisha could very well just be a giant elephant, but I'll explain more in a little bit. But the second part, there's an interesting ability in One Piece to command these giant creatures. Shirahoshi is able to command Sea Kings, but is it because of a specific ability? Not necessarily. The legend of her powers is that she obtains it because she is a mermaid of royal blood. That might be the case with Zunisha. What if the original orders for Zunisha were to listen to only conquerors of the royal Amatsuki or Kozuki clan? But I'm leaning more towards Toki's clan. If the Kibi Kibi no Mi powers persist through unconsciousness and possibly death, then this could be plausible. Okay, so all of this said, and I'm sure you've heard this line of thinking elsewhere, I've honestly come back and forth from multiple fruits and had been waiting to put my thoughts out, because what I wanted to figure out to give it more validity to my thinking is, what would the real fruit's name be? And I said it earlier, I think it might be possible that Tama's Kibi Kibi no Mi fruit is actually the Bishi Bishi no Mi. The Kibi Dango fruit is already kind of goofy and super niche feeling. She can pull dumplings from her face, and that somehow tames animals. It's not the goofiest fruit, but it's also like super specific and way more impactful than most other goofy fruits have been. She has found herself reversing course of the war on Onigashima because of her fruit. That's huge. The Kibi fruit is referring to the Kibi Dango, which is a dumpling. But then Otama's name also makes it feel more natural, since the variations of her name means ball or marble, so it just fit in. She's a cute little ball, to be honest too. I look forward to any Tama scenes because she's mad adorable and innocent. But anyways, the thing with devil fruit names is that there's a pattern to a lot of them. Some of them outright mean what the fruit does, like Bello Betty's fruit, which is translated to the pump pump fruit. But in Japanese, it's the Kobu Kobu no Mi, and Kobu means inspiration, or the main example is Gomu, which means rubber. But a huge pattern with fruit names are that they are actually Japanese onomatopoeia relating to the fruit. So some fruits that are examples of this, and I'm not going to list all of them, but some fruits I'm going to be highlighting in upcoming videos. The Gura Gura tremor fruit that Blackbeard now has is the onomatopoeia describing shaking or wobbling during an earthquake. The Baku Baku no Mi, the Munch Munch fruit that Wapol has, Baku Baku is the onomatopoeia for eating quickly and wildly. And my favorite that I'm definitely going to be talking about soon, because it's so interesting, is Buggy. He has the Bara Bara no Mi, or the Chop Chop fruit. And Bara Bara is the onomatopoeia to disconnect or disperse. And I thought this was interesting because when you put the words together, they can mean other things. So like Kibi Kibi can mean squishy. While following this line of thinking, I was like, is Kibi Kibi onomatopoeia for anything? But also let's keep in mind what her power has been shown to do. She can pull substances from her body, and currently animals that consume it become obedient to her. She is basically an animal tamer. A beast tamer, basically? Honestly, it would make more sense if a fruit was called the tame fruit. But okay, what's the onomatopoeia sound for a tamer? I'd associate it with like a whip sound, like a whoosh. And this was kind of crazy. When I googled kibi Japanese onomatopoeia, this came up. Bishi is a word that expresses two things. One, a sound hitting a subject with something long and thin like a whip or ruler. Two, it expresses the way something is moving in a sharp or fast manner. The something can be an animal or a human being. For the latter meaning, a synonym is kibi. So this could quite literally be the wordplay that Oda might use here. Instead of the onomatopoeia kibi, the real name of the fruit, which would be its synonym bishi, referring to the sound of hitting a subject with a whip or ruler, which coincidentally ties really well with what we've seen out of Tama's actual powers. I don't know exactly how bishi would translate into a specific word, but I imagine it'd be the ruler fruit. Bishi apparently translates to relentlessly. Now I want to clarify again, as I have in many of my other videos, I'm not a Japanese speaker or reader, but as an English speaker, I do recognize there's a whole piece of One Piece that is missing to me because of the language barrier. That being said, you might be asking, okay, well, if this were her power, then how come she makes dangos and feeds them to animals? My main response to counter this at the moment is that because Tama is a child, she probably does not have full control over a fruit, similar to how Momo couldn't control all the facets of his abilities, or even more like how Bon Clay says he has to touch his face to turn into a clone memory, but we saw that the previous holder, Higurashi, didn't need to touch her face to transform. Also, Oda has said before that when someone gets a devil fruit, the power may not always have the same power levels or output or uses. If Tama, who has no knowledge of devil fruits or her power, then it's completely up to her to use the power how she imagines. And now think about what Tama really wanted. She had to hide herself because her fruit's value to the beast pirates, so Tenguyama kept her isolated. But on top of that, she was starving and had no food. Even when she had no food, it pained her to see people and animals starving, so she always tried to treat them to food. It might be that Tama only knows this ball function of her ability because that's all she really wanted, to keep people from getting hungry. It may not even be that the subjects need to eat the dango. Maybe it's simply that she needs to touch them or something. This fruit would be a really important fruit that I could understand why the Gorosei or world government would want to hide it. If this fruit was something akin to the ruler fruit, then that would be a world-shaping power, as there are giant creatures that could be tamed. And what of Tama's current restrictions? It might be that Tama again doesn't have access to her full powers and either doesn't realize she can command people, and Rayleigh has said that animals are more simple-minded and easier to read. This might extend out to here. That being said, that's my current thoughts. I had a few other ideas and I could share them if you guys really wanted, maybe on Twitter. Like some other names for Tama's fruit could be the Shire no Mi or the Oda no Mi, translating to the order fruit. But nah, that would be crazy and hilarious. For a long while I was convinced the fruit that was renamed was actually Kid's fruit, and I had a really good idea for it and the name. And then also Law's fruit, but I was leaning more towards Kid's or Tama's. Also, side note, I'm not sure how many are aware of this, but a kibi dango is basically a mochi, just made with millet flour instead of rice flour. And so we already have a mochi paramecia, which is katakuri, and katakuri's devil fruit definitely isn't working like this. Also, wouldn't it be weird to have two paramecias that are basically the same thing, just separated by the type of flour? Also, side note, another reason why Law's fruit could connect back to Zunisha is that an ancient user of Law's Opi no Mi could have used the personality switch and put someone into Zunisha as punishment, Joy Boy or maybe the Continent Puller. But anyways, I mentioned this in my Discord. I won't be reading the spoilers this week. I got a lot of videos to work on and edit. They're huge videos, so definitely share my reaction videos or get your friends to see the ParVision. Anyways, thank you guys for connecting with me, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all on the next ParVision.